clearly many more came this time, so that's very nice. And I thank supervisors for having us here this evening. From the last meeting, we went back, as I said I would, and talked to our folks, and as we started to investigate, the DEP called us as well and asked if we would help in coordinating efforts with them to learn everything that's going on in the area with the families that were involved that spoke out last meeting. So my colleague Susan Oliver, who's our PR and community relations individual person for WPX Energy, came up and spent about 10 days here, day and night, night and day, and working hard with the folks and with DEP, etc. So she can catch you up on everything that was specifically done, and we'll be happy after that to answer any questions.
They're blocking me from videotaping. That's not right. It should be open to Sunshine Law.
Excuse me, we would like to hear what she has.
The Sunshine Law allows for videotaping.
Well,
This is not
Are you a
correct.
township
but you
resident?
bumped me out of my seat.
This is the Sunshine Law. They're blocking me. They pushed me out of the way. They're blocking me
Why
for
don't you just
videotaping.
leave?
No, I'm not leaving.
Can
We
I
have a
sit
right
my-
to
Can I
be.
sit in my seat?
You could sit and do what you want.
Hear the truth of what's happening, so I welcome the opportunity to do this and tell you step by step what's been happening. Back in December, about the middle of the month, 3 families got in
You can have an injunction against you. You can have charges against you for
Shut up,
preventing
we want to
people.
listen to the meeting.
Order this meeting, please.
They're stopping me.
Order.
Nobody's stopping you.
Yes, they did. They blocked me.
Let her speak.
Then I'm.
On the middle of December 2011, 3 families contacted the DEP with some information about their water wells. So the DEP decided to investigate. They started their investigation, and then they reached out to us because our closest water well is over 4,000 feet away, which is almost twice the distance the new regulation requires a company to be involved in evaluating water wells. But because we were the closest producer in the area, they reached out to us for help. So we went into the 3 families' homes and we did some indoor air screening. And this was to check to see the level of methane within these homes to see if there was an explosive situation. In 2 of the homes, the readings were 0, and in 1 home, it fluctuated between 1% and 2%. If the house had read a continuous air sampling of approximately 10% or more, then we would have had to advise the family, hey, you need to leave immediately because you are in an explosive situation. They were not. So they were told that, and the DEP was informed that. The next time we heard from the DEP as they were continuing on their investigation was in the middle of this month, or March, excuse me, we're in April now, the middle of March. And that's when the DEP reached out to us and asked us, can you go back in and again do some indoor air screening to see and make sure they're not in an explosive situation, and to vent the wells. So we went into the 3 homes, we did the indoor air screening, and then we also expanded that indoor air screening to 500 feet around one of the well areas. We didn't find an explosive situation in anyone's home. The majority of people had 0. Only 1 home fluctuated between 1% and 2% of methane in their air. In addition to the venting of the 2 water wells, we voluntarily provided water to the 3 water wells. We voluntarily provided water tanks to the 3 families, because it was our understanding they were in a situation where they had no potable water, and we thought we would reach out to them because they are our neighbors. We are operating in the vicinity of or throughout Franklin Township, and so we consider them our neighbors. So we felt it was appropriate to go ahead and give them some help. So we installed the water wells at all 3, or the water tanks, excuse me, at all 3 homes. And 1 home, we were blocked by their attorney from finishing our installation. Because of that, the water pump that we installed, which is outside, we were not able to put the protective shed around the home, around the water tank that we had hooked up to the home as we had planned. because we were told by the attorney that we could not enter the property without written permission. So for 3 days, as we were waiting to hear back from the attorney whether or not we had permission to go and help this family, the cold weather, you guys had some cold weather snap, about 20 degrees, and I think it might have gone a little bit below that. The water pump that we installed cracked, because it's not designed for an unprotected outside use. So hence why we were trying to put the protective shed up. So the family was without working water. And so we couldn't do anything about it. And you may have heard some stories that the company was refusing to deliver water and all that stuff. We were actually being blocked by their own attorney from helping this family. So once we finally got the permission, we went in, we replaced the pump, and we made sure that the water was full. It was still 3/4 full because the family hadn't been able to use it because the pump cracked. And so we did put the protective shed on. And then the next day, our guys came in and checked and made sure they had enough water. And we have daily water deliveries to these folks. The DEP also asked us to install monitoring ports on the vertical vents. And all that consisted of was drilling a little hole. And that allows the DEP, whenever they want to put a tube in there with their air monitoring equipment, and to evaluate any emissions that may be coming out from the well and do a reading. And so we did that, and that was the latest thing we did. Now, in addition to this situation, one of the water wells has been advertised as erupting. And so our engineers, who have over 30 years of experience working with water wells and pumps and these kinds of physics items, they did an evaluation of this water well, and we ran a very simple test. And in our test, we were able to recreate this eruption that some individuals were claiming was a result of underground pressure. Now, if it was a result of underground pressure, we would not have been able to recreate it, but we did, which indicates to us and to our engineers primarily, not to me, but to our engineers, that there may be a mechanical issue with this well that requires further evaluation. We have been blocked by the attorney from doing a physical evaluation of this water well. And all of this we're doing at no expense to any of the families. And this particular water well, we feel it's important for the long-term solution for this family to identify exactly why this water well was spewing water. And so the only way to do that is to get in and to take a look at the mechanics of the well. We offered to do that at no expense. They can pick the contractor. The DEP will be there. DEP has already said they will come and they want to be there when this evaluation takes place. And we would be the observers also. And we still don't have an answer from the attorney whether or not we can do that. And that would be part of a thorough investigation that the DEP wants to conduct to see what's happening. In addition to this, we went, as we did the indoor screening, within the 500 feet circumference of this one particular well, we had discussions with the residents who are living in that 500-foot circle to find out what's been going on with their wells, what's the history, and what has this little community area within your township been experiencing. And folks shared with us, folks who have lived there 15, 30, 44 years, they shared with us that the water's always been bad. It's always smelled off and on. And it's always had sputtering and spurting through their faucets. And, oh, by the way, did you know we used to light it on fire when we were kids? And, oh, by the way, over at South Springs State Park, we used to light that on fire when we were kids. And so we heard all these stories and we added that up and we gave that all to the DEP. In addition to our venting and the screening that we did do water well testing of these three particular wells. And we sent those tests off to the lab. And when those results come in, they're going to be given to the DEP. And the DEP will evaluate it along with all the other data that they've been collecting since December. One set of numbers don't mean anything, but when you take a look from what they've been doing back in December all the way to when we did the testing, it will give them an indication of something. The type of test that we ask the lab to run is a test that will hopefully help identify where the gas is coming from, what strata of underneath. You know, so whether it's shallow, whether it's deep, you know, there's all kinds of different things that they'll look for. I'm not a scientist, so I can't tell you all the factors on how that works. But the way it was explained to me by my guys is they can identify where the gas came from, where it's been, and pretty much how it got to where it is today, kind of thing. And so that's what they're looking at. We also collected air samples of the well. So what we did is we put a monitoring tube into the wellhead, you know, just cracked it enough to get our tube in, and we were able to withdraw some air samples. And those air sample pouches were also sent to the lab, and those pouches will be evaluated to determine what's the consistency or what's the concentration of whatever is coming out of that well. So that's pretty much where we stand. I did brief the county commissioners on what was going on so that they were aware at their last monthly meeting. And I also reassured them at that time, because they were getting ready to vote on the Act 13, that you know, no matter what their vote is, we didn't want them to be influenced by us in any way. So we had reassured them that whichever way their vote goes, we will continue to maintain the safety of the roads. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that also. You know, so that was important to us. And so that's pretty much where we stand. We are we're waiting to hear back from the lawyer to see whether or not we can do a thorough investigation and do the mechanical evaluation of the well. And we're also waiting on you know, lab results. The DEP has lab results that they're waiting on. We're waiting on lab results that we've sent in for. And then we'll kind of evaluate, just like a doctor does. You know, once you do all the little tests and you start clicking off, you know, what the possibilities are, then you go from there. So until all that's done, you really don't know what direction to go. So that's kind of where we stand right now. But we do have daily deliveries going to these folks. As part of our delivery system, just so you're aware, we do evaluate, you know, what's happening with the water, what's happening with the tanks. We have a system in place where the tanks will be exchanged so that they'll be sanitary and the water will maintain potability. You know, they can still drink it and use it. And the water is coming from the Montrose water system. So the folks do have potable water to use. So if you have any questions, folks, that you have here? Yes, sir.
When will the water test be back, and will it test for metals?
It has a whole series of tests that the DEP started, and it's my understanding it does include different metals.
I know when we got our water test back, it was like 1.5 inches thick.
Yeah.
Really, you know, inclusive.
Yeah, there's very extensive very extensive testing that's going on, and we're using the same parameters that the DEP started with, so that, you know, you can compare apples to apples. And then we did add a few more things on bacteria. You know, we wanted to see what kind of bacteria may be affecting the wells, because for some reason these three families have unusual things happening with their wells, and so you have to look at everything.
When will it be back?
We're not sure. The labs say anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks,
Okay.
sometimes 8 weeks. So we really
Thanks.
don't. We're kind of at the mercy of the lab and their workload. And the labs that they're going to are DEP certified labs. So it's not just a random lab that we pick. It's a lab that the DEP has certified that says, you know, these are the labs we want you to use. And we did have an outside contractor come in and do the sampling. So it was from an experienced environmental team that came in and did the sampling. Yes, ma'am.
Have you done any air quality tests of other buildings down there or businesses or any kind of testing for the other people that live in the township down there?
Yes, we did. Within a 500-foot circle of the one particular house, we did the air quality monitoring inside, did some readings to make sure see what's going on in their homes, and we found nothing. We found no methane or anything like that. Nothing for them to be concerned about. We did find one home that had a leak in their propane tanks outside. So we let the homeowner know that, because you're losing money there. And they need to fix their fittings, but other than that, we didn't have any readings. And again, these homes are 4,000 feet away. They're actually over 4,000 feet away from our closest well. The next closest well is 1.5 miles away.
Is there any kind of seasonality connected with this, these methane emissions or whatever you want to call it?
Well, in that particular area of your township, you know, you have the Salt Spring State Park, and that's what our environmentalists and DEP are looking at. DEP and I think it was DCNR or some other folks have been involved in doing an evaluation of Salt Spring State Park. You may have seen that in your newspaper. And there's a lot of history with the hydrology down there. Not to mention you had 200-year floods this past fall when all those water wells could have been affected, you know, since floods affect water wells. And there's also you know, just the natural shifting of what's happening down that way. You know, that's all part of that formula that has to be evaluated to see, because, you know, just like when a doctor looks at things, you can't just discount and say, aha, I found it. So it's a process that we're going through. And the process, we're trying to be as thorough as possible to help the DEP determine what exactly is happening. Yes, sir.
Have you had trouble with residents' water in the past, where you've been before?
No,
Never.
not here in Pennsylvania. You know, we have, we haven't experienced this. I mean, if we have a family that calls us and we did pre-well testing, you know, pre-drilling testing, and we've been involved with that family because at the time it's 1,000 feet, you know, until the middle of April it changes to 2,500 feet for pre-well testing or pre-drilling testing. If one of those families contact us, we do go right to them, we address whatever it might be. Sometimes there could be a cloudiness, you know, from time to time, but that clears up usually in 1 or 2 days, you know, and that's just the movement of the aquifer sometimes that causes that, you know, but that's about all we've had. Yes,
Just
ma'am.
curious if you spoke to the store owner down there at all, because of it being a business with food, she must have to have her water tested. Have you talked to her at all to see how her water is?
Yes, I did, and she did have her water tested. The DEP did come in and talk with her, and they said her water is fine. They gave her the results. We took a look at them also, and even all of our guys and our other contractor took a look at it and said, you know, what their situation. We talked to the DEP, and we'll be getting all those results, and they'll be evaluating all that. But yes, the shop owner did inform us that her water is fine and she has no concerns whatsoever. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Hey.
Why would you say that it would be Salt Springs when Salt Springs, that's been there for 100+ years? And maybe when you're drilling, maybe it bothered it.
Well, Salt
And
Spring State Park.
I know some of them casings for a fact they clean thoroughly. I know that for a fact.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Some of the casings that they use, I know for a fact they don't clean every single one of them. So contamination could come down through them.
The casings in the water wells?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a variety of water well casings in that area. You know, there's some water wells that were hand driven. You know,
Yeah, you could give me some
the
room,
shallowest one
too.
that we found was 12 feet. You know, that's a pretty shallow water well. And then there's some others that we found that were hand driven down to about 17 to 30 feet. You know, somewhere in there in that range. And then there are a few that were excavated in and deeper. The one particular water well that's having the most difficulty is the deepest one. So, you know, that's all part of the evaluation that the DEP is looking at to see, you know, what impact is happening out there. Yes, sir.
About the Hollenbeck well,
Yes, sir.
there was a lady, I got this from my wife, just didn't make the news or anything. No, I'm sorry.
Herman.
Herman, I apologize. Anyway, she had some black sludge in her water, and she talked with the Williams people there, and the Williams people, I think, were the ones that suggested DEP come in and so on. And I'm wondering if this is under your radar. She said her neighbor also has some problems. It was more a black sludge problem that came and went, and then she was told it would come again. And I wonder if what WPX has looked into, how you looked into that.
I don't have any information on that, if she
Actually-
contacted the,
Yeah, that's the pipeline, we do have some,
Oh.
yeah, that is being taken care of, it wasn't from drilling, it's from our
From
pipeline
the pipeline.
going through and the two neighbors
Right,
there.
it was two,
Yes,
yep.
yeah, so DEP, we're working with them again to look at the water, and we, are working with those folks as well.
Good.
And they've been most accommodating, and, we're continuing to monitor that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
she knew.
I've had communications with a couple of those people also. Been talking to me.
I'm in focus on Franklin Forks.
It's a big county.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, well, if you have any questions, supervisors know how to reach me, so please feel free to get in touch with me. Be happy to give you updates. We are keeping the supervisors updated as things progress, so that, your community leadership, they can help inform you if you have questions. And so, once we do, hopefully get the opportunity to do the mechanical evaluation of the well, inside the well, the water well of the one family, then we would like to share that information with everybody also, so you know kind of what happened there.
Thank you. Any public comment? Questions? Everybody ready to go home? There you go. Okay, let's make a motion to adjourn the meeting then.
I'll second that one.
All right.